Crybaby Governor Gavin Newsom recently gave a disaster press conference, and he was just making up some stories, shocking statements that I'm pretty sure you won't believe. If you're skeptical of him, you need to hear this right now.
I met one business owner. They've been 20 years in business. They said, we miss COVID. They said it was much easier. They have lost 80% of their business. And they said they've lost something more precious, which really put it in perspective. They said they've lost a sense of community. They said they miss their customers, not the business. They miss the tables being filled. That's what a family business is all about. They're barely making ends meet. They're trying some catering work. They have a 15-year employee. He won't even show up to work. He's here with documentation, but he's scared to death. He hasn't shown up in weeks since 4 raids occurred in nearby. He won't even show up because he's scared to death of being pulled over for simple reason because of the way he looks, because he's being racially profiled.
So that was like a 2-part story that he gave. And first of all, if the story is true, people aren't showing up, 80% of the customers aren't going in, then why does that one individual need to even go to work? The individual, as he says, is illegal, but he's too scared to go to work. It's a little weird to me, but either way, it actually feels like it does benefit the business in this point, because why would you need the extra hands if people aren't coming in? Now, I'm not advocating for businesses to slow down, but that's just the reality of it. But the second part is what really gets me, is he wants to admit that these times in California are much harder than his dictatorship Golden State shutdowns. And what's even more wild is he's talking about a restaurant in his story, right? So restaurant owners. And there's just no way for me to believe this, because if you think about what was going on during the lockdowns, it was restaurants that were blackballed the hardest by Gavin Newsom. Take a look.
Under the new order, restaurants must close their outdoor dining area and only serve delivery and takeout orders. Some restaurant owners are saying no.
We're not going to abide by those orders. We cannot survive with takeout and delivery alone because we're giving 30 cents on every dollar through delivery up to the Silicon Valley apps.
Many small business owners say this stay-at-home order is unfair. Retail stores can still operate indoors at 20% capacity, and the entertainment industry can continue. But nail and hair salons cannot. Some business owners say it's also hard to follow orders from Governor Gavin Newsom when in November he attended a birthday dinner with a group of people after telling Californians not to have large gatherings.
People who are writing the rules are breaking them themselves, and that tells us 2 things. Number 1, that they don't care about us, and or number 2, that they don't care about the rules, or that things aren't serious enough for them to feel as if they should be following the rules.
Well, I want to apologize to you because I need to preach and practice, not just preach and not practice.
Yeah, so it's really hard for me to believe that first story was true. But now he goes on into a second story, and he tells the biggest reach I've seen him do in recent times by trying to use people as pawns and at the same time make superstar President Donald Trump look bad.
I met a mother and her beautiful daughter. Daughter's going to Bible school. She just got off. She was walking in an ice cream store. And her mom came to me. She says, I'm here legally, but I'm carrying my passport if you need any proof. I said, you don't need to impress me. She's here legally. She's carrying her passport. And her daughter was just coming back from Bible school. That's Trump's America.
So that's Trump's America. I'm not too sure. Is he more mad about the individual coming back with a Bible from Bible school, or is he mad because she was an actual legal and carrying a passport? Honestly, I can't even tell with Gavin Newsom at this point, because he just told the story and said, that's Trump's America. Bro has been doing too many podcasts. Think about it. He's just now telling stories to tell stories and always try and insinuate that there could be a Trump analogy that goes with it. So then he goes into another story about the National Guard. In this story, it kind of appears like he's actually giving credit to Trump more than actually putting him down.
Federalized the National Guard. He deployed roughly 5,000 military, not overseas. In fact, his entire first term, the President of the United States did not even send the military boots on the ground overseas, his entire first term. First 6 months of his administration, he decides to send them to the United States of America, 5,000 military, 4,000 federalized from the National Guard, close to 1,000 U.S. Marines. He sent them to a United States city.
So that should really get you thinking for a second. If Newsom essentially pointed out that superstar President Donald Trump has been very responsible with his deployments and mentioning in his first term that he never even risked National Guard troops being sent outside America, like really kind of think about how bad it had to be inside Los Angeles, how bad it is in California with all the illegals running wild. Think about all the crime and the illegal corruption that is happening within the state. I mean, we did just see it with what happened at the marijuana farm. That was a historic bust. And obviously, Gavin Newsom, he doesn't want to play any part in that. He doesn't want to bring it up. And it is what it is because the corruption is happening right under Newsom's nose and he can't stand it. But wait, it does get better. Newsom now makes up another story which is based entirely about his elitism and his privilege compared to everyone else.
And so we're here mindful of people living here. I said to someone, I said, I got it easy. White guy, all the privileges. Talking to members of the community, they feel like democracy is already gone. For me, it still seems to be on life support, but moving along, they feel like authoritarianism's already come to their community. They're not even walking the streets. We were here, not just in businesses that are empty. The entire shopping mall's empty. It's summertime. There was no one till that young woman came in with that young girl came in with her mom. There was no one in the ice cream store in the middle of the day in the summer. One of the most beautiful communities, Bell, in California. Tourists. We said, what happened to the tourists? Not just from Mexico, not just from Canada, from Europe. They said the tourists aren't coming. Wrecking the economy, destroying families, destroying generational businesses.
So Newsom basically just admitted that he's a privileged Democrat politician, but in that incoherent, floppy story that he's trying to portray as all Trump's fault, he's not really realizing that we all understand it's because of him this is all happening. Newsom, the politician who's letting sanctuary cities and illegals run wild, have ruined California's economy. Newsom complaining when law and order actually steps up and does their job. Keep in mind, everyone, that this isn't a superstar President Donald Trump problem. This is a California Governor Gavin Newsom problem. It's a Governor Newsom who cares more about providing free healthcare to illegals. It's a privileged governor who does not care about giving free healthcare to Californians, about pushing that at all. No, that's not the agenda here, because he's a governor who is a privileged dictator. A governor, when asked about the use of misusing California resources on the press office account, keeping it professional, he said this.
Well, it's a response to Stephen Chung in the White House and his use of that word. I don't think they understand any other kind of language, so I have no apologies for standing tall and firm and pushing back against their cruelty. And if it requires more clear language, requires a recognition that things have radically changed with Trump presidency, then I will assert myself as I feel fit. And I'll do so with clarity and conviction. The difference between Donald Trump and the Trump administration and the state of California and the work that's being done by many elected officials here is we don't just exercise our formal authority, we also exercise our moral authority.
So privileged Gavin Newsom later on in the press conference basically acts like he needs the power of the National Guard and knows how to do it very well.
I've deployed the National Guard in multiple locations, multiple times. Going back to George Floyd, one of the largest deployments in U.S. history.
George Floyd example, which probably wasn't the smartest example to use because he's famous for these quotes here in California after waiting days to do it. You lost patience, so have I. directing himself basically to the protesters. You are right to feel wronged. You are right to feel the way you are feeling. Remember, Trump had to warn Newsom at the time. He said, I'm going to send in the military if you do nothing. And so Newsom finally was like, okay, fine. So then he stepped up after days. Like he said, okay, I lost patience. It's like, yeah, you let this run wild for days. So one could say that superstar President Donald Trump even had to do Newsom's job in protecting Californians back then. But if you want to see another prime example, in his press conference where he essentially admits under his leadership, people have lost trust in law enforcement.
And I'll tell you, the most damaging thing about what's going on right now is other law enforcement agencies, these good folks, are being impacted because people are losing trust in local law enforcement now.
Yeah, so you heard that, and this is what the LAPD chief said after hearing that comment that Newsom said.
Is the perception, and that has a chilling effect on our ability to be able to keep our community safe, because people are afraid to come forward and report being a victim of a crime or a witness to a crime, and then the whole system breaks down as a result.
So you heard what the LAPD chief said. Exactly. The whole system breaks down as a result. Doesn't that seem like a Democrat priority? A priority that Democrats have been fighting for? How even the people that vote Democrat, these hardcore liberals, they are fighting for this. Take down the system. Break it down. Breaking down the system. It's kind of chilling when you think about it. And when he was asked about if he would give credit to superstar President Donald Trump's administration for restoring law and order in Los Angeles, Newsom absolutely loses it.
Exact opposite. He incited more anxiety. He's incited more unrest. He's incited more uncertainty. He's exacerbated the conditions. Exactly the opposite. It's not even a close call. I revere the men and women in uniform, police officers from city jurisdictions, county jurisdictions, state jurisdictions. Universally, they say that. Not just the governor of California saying that. No, I don't credit him. I credit him for creating chaos. He's a chaos agent. He is not about calming people's nerves. He's not about public safety.
So after losing it and going on an unhinged rant, one can now speculate that he might have just incited violence at his press conference by saying this.
I worry about people's lives. I'm telling you, we're on the verge. This is serious. I mean, if someone just randomly, if I'm walking down the street with my kids and someone grabs me with a mask on and tries to throw me in an unmarked van, and I am looking at my kids, I'm surprised someone hasn't gotten hurt. Someone is going to get hurt. So the best thing that happened to this administration, maybe that they have to come to realization of what they're doing and change their tactics, even if they're not compelled to do so at the appellate level. I pray that's the case.
Really said, I pray that's the case. I pray that's the case. In my opinion, he's insinuating that someone needs to get hurt. And then he prays that superstar President Donald Trump just miraculously steps away. I feel that's just not possible. I feel like it actually could be the complete opposite. I feel Democrats have incited the violence, right? So it would have to be picked up and pointed the fingers at the Democrats, because just in that statement that Gavin Newsom just said, I pray that's the case. Think about that. That's wild to me, because if something bad does happen to ICE agents, we already saw someone turn around and shoot a gun at ICE agents, right, at that raid. That was wild. Now, these progressive politicians, what's probably going to happen is they will have to find a seat at a congressional witness hearing table, and they are going to have to answer for all this violence that they have caused, this chaos. Because I don't know about you, but that sentence right there from Newsom just didn't seem right to me. Now, to end the press conference, a reporter asked about how everything happening in California could affect the economy. And Newsom's answer is actually very shocking, and I think it's a crazy admission to who he is as a person that has no clue and just says words and just makes up things just on the fly, like California's fourth largest economy. So he likes to use that line all the time, right? Well, take a listen.
Yeah, we're trying to. It's interesting. It was a question I got today, and I think it's much deeper than people think. You know, we tend to measure things in the aggregate. We don't live in the aggregate. You know, it's not about GDP. It's about communities, these small businesses. This is not, with all due respect, about Apple and NVIDIA. It's incalculable when you're down 6 to 7% in business. Imagine being down 60 or 70%. You don't get that back. You could lose your house because you've got a line of credit on your house against your business. You could lose everything, your dreams, your family. How do you calculate that? And so I don't know the answer to that. I want to know I'm mindful. We need to understand that.
So think about what he just said. We live in an aggregate. It's not really about big tech, yet he always likes to say California is the fourth largest economy. But I have to admit, that has nothing to do with majority of Californians. That's basically what he's saying, is like he's up there and he's like, well, I don't know how to calculate it, right? That doesn't really compute with me. And like now all of a sudden he cares about small businesses and he cares about the common Californians, and he's trying to step up to the plate, even though this governor shut down the state for 2 years, which affected those very same people. So he can't even use that line anymore. California's fourth largest economy. It's like, well, actually, we live in an aggregate, you know? I don't know what to say, Newsom. We live in an aggregate. It doesn't really reflect what's happening to everyday Californians. So that's just the epitome right there of that press conference. And it's just sad to say that Gavin Newsom is losing his mind.